SCCA Championship Runoffs has long been a launching pad to professional careers for some, an annual pilgrimage for many, and a bucket list event just to compete in for all. This weekend, it is also a test extraordinaire, as for the contenders, Sonoma Raceway awaits.
Welcome out to beautiful Sonoma Raceway and live coverage of the 2018 Sports Car Club of America National Championship Runoffs with live streaming coverage presented by Mazda. My name is Ryan Marine. Andy Hollis is alongside, and we'll have Tom O'Gorman down on pit lane to provide updates from that vantage point as we go along through this, our Formula Atlantic and Formula 1000 National Championship race. And it's an interesting dynamic, Andy, because it's one of just a handful of races that we see throughout the week that is mixed class.
That's right, which always provides an interesting phenomenon here. These cars actually drive fairly similar lap times. We'll get into what each kind of car is in a moment. But because of that, what will happen is the back markers of one field will start to have to contend with the front runners out of the other field as they start to get lapped. That plays into the race of both those front runners as well as those back markers. You got to watch the mirrors, and if you notice these cars, the mirrors aren't particularly good. Some of them have spotters up in there in the stands, some do not. But that intermingling can be quite dynamic for the race conditions.
Should be fun to watch. We've got 7 cars in each of our 2 classes, and we'll talk more about them as we go throughout the broadcast. But it will be a split start, the 2 classes starting independent of one another. The question becomes, when exactly are they going to start to intermingle? Because we expect, again, there to be some disparity, but what should make this interesting is when they do start intermingling, there's not a huge difference in pace between the 2. Let's get an update from pit lane and Tom O'Gorman.
Yeah, how you doing, guys? Just want to give you a closer look at what the difference is between these cars. We have the pole-sitting Formula Atlantic of Merle Swan up there, but this is a great representation. These are powered by production engines, things you would see in a car on the road. Toyota, Mazda are popular, but you see pretty big tires, pretty big aerodynamics. The cars are fairly large for a Formula car. And then we'll take a step over. I'd love to show you the pole-sitter of J.R. Osborne, but there's this big gap here. We hear he will be here, but this is the 9 of Randy Cook. Smaller tires. These are powered by bike motors. 1,000 cc, a couple 100 pounds lighter. You see these big open gaps here. This weight is a big deal. Very different approaches for these cars to make similar speed, as Andy alluded to. Last thing I want to point out, it looks sunny and balmy down here, but it's actually pretty chilly. A couple goosebumps on my arm. The wind picked up just a little bit, and we saw the track change a lot during qualifying in these conditions. Andy can tell you more about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a moment. Thank you very much, Tom. 71 degrees, but the wind perhaps as stiff as it has been throughout the weekend. And please, Tom, keep us updated on the J.R. Osborne situation, set to roll off as the pole sitter in Formula 1000. But your observations on what Tom said and what we have in store for us coming up.
Well, these are the fastest single-seat Formula cars that SCCA has to offer. They have big power to weight compared to some of the other classes. They are among the quickest cars overall here at the Runoffs. Only the P1s and P2s prototype cars are quicker than these with their more silhouette bodies. This Atlantic class, most of these cars, majority of the field, are actually 20-year-old survivors of an old professional IndyCar feeder series called Formula Atlantic Pro. With chassis made by Swift and Walt, specific race car chassis, and as Tom mentioned, engines now made by both Mazda and Toyota in this field. They do have wings, but a large percentage of the downforce they generate are created by those ground effects tunnels you see on the sides, those side pods. Those were all the rage 2 decades ago. That was the thing. You saw them in IndyCar, you saw them in the Atlantics, and that's where they make the bulk of their downforce. The Formula 1000, on the other hand, those are much lighter than the Atlantics. You saw Tom pointing out the open areas there on the side, and they use those 1,000 cc motorcycle engines, which aren't particularly large, but the cars are so much lighter that the power to weight ratio is very, very similar. Kawasaki, Suzuki, both the manufacturers of those. The other differentiator there in the Formula 1000 field, there's 2 kinds of cars. Some are purpose-built race cars built for the class specifically by a company called Stohr, S-T-O-H-R. But still others are repurposed Formula Continental cars, which is a slower class with smaller motors. Guys will take those cars, decide they want to go a little faster. They'll put a motorcycle engine in them, add a little bit of aero with the wing, and suddenly they're running in Formula 1000. Each is a different approach. Each yields very, very quick lap times at a highly technical track here like one here at Sonoma.
It's a really good showcase track for these cars. We've seen it throughout the week with the various formula cars and prototype cars that the SCCA sanctions, and we expect a similar outcome in this race today. Good news, we did get a report that J.R. Osborne, the pole sitter in the Formula 1000 class, did make his way to grid, so we expect to see that class roll off as they qualified, which is very good news indeed. Let's talk about this track and the significance of racing at Sonoma, specifically for these cars. Again, a showcase opportunity for drivers of both series.
Indeed, it's a highly technical track, a great place to contest the national championship runoffs. It's got a little bit of everything. One of the key differentiators between this one and most tracks is there's not any really long straightaways. There's some long sections where you're turning the wheel constantly and accelerating quite a bit, but you still have to let off in a few little places. Aero cars like these, though, that will be one of the places where these guys may be able to take some of those turns flat out that other classes of cars may have to lift and or brake for. So we'll be looking for that. Drafting not a factor with these cars at all because they have enough power to weight that they don't need it. But the other thing we're going to see play out, lots of blind turns here at this track, and we are late in the day now, and as we always see late in the day, the sun starts to get right in the eyes of the drivers as they climb the hill from turns 1 into 2 and a couple of little places on the track, but that's primarily the one. That's going to be really challenging for these drivers. In fact, you can see a couple of them there with the tape across the visors as they put down the shields. They're going to need that late in this race when the sun starts to crest on the hill there.
Clear skies, no cloud cover. The fog that we saw earlier in the day, that has well and truly disappeared by this point. 71 degrees, but it is windy, as Tom O'Gorman reported a few moments ago, and humidity levels at around 50% at this time. Looks like the field is about to roll on out to the racetrack indeed. Our grid marshal says, go on out, take to the racetrack, and the first car we see roll through is your pole sitter for Formula Atlantic. Let's run through the starting grid for Formula Atlantic, starting with her pole sitter, the Tire Rack Pole Award winner, Merle Swan out of Brownsburg, Indiana, will start from P1. Spencer Brockman alongside in the second starting position. Anthony Ofeim will start in third, while Ed Ozard will start fourth. Fifth place to Paul Riveras, and Graham Rankin in sixth, with Dwight Ryder rounding out the starting lineup for Formula Atlantic. Good shot there of the Trans Am pace car, Trans Am 455 Super Duty, 1,000 horsepower under the hood, and it's been put through its paces, not just as a pace car, but also taking some lucky folks on laps around this circuit. It's been busy here throughout the week.
It sure has, and every time it rolls by the media center there when I was over there, the windows would rattle. That thing makes quite the sound. Uh-oh. Got somebody taking an off-course excursion there. It's car number 44. Who is that?
Rod Rice, I believe, is the driver that went around. That is 44 out of the Formula 1000 category. And it looks like Rod Rice, who was scheduled to start in the third spot, might have had a problem there. We saw that from some of our prototype competitors earlier in the day, or perhaps that was earlier in the week. But at any rate, that is not a huge surprise with relatively low temperatures, lightweight cars, and a very slick track.
Yeah, exactly. Most likely a cold tire situation there. It takes some time to get heat into these tires. These races are 40 minutes long, 20 laps, and the issue, the guys have to have compounds on the tires that will last that long, that will not overheat in that time. But during these first couple of cold tire laps, you see they're trying to scrub them around by working the car back and forth. If you push it too hard before the grip levels come up, car goes right around.
Let's run through the starting order. The 7 drivers set to take part in the Formula 1000 National Championship race that will be going on concurrently. J.R. Osborne did get to the grid and will start from P1. Randy Cook, the Palo Alto resident, will start second. Rod Rice, scheduled to start third. We'll see where he ends up lining up, while Gary Hickman is supposed to roll off in the fourth starting position. Fifth, sixth, and seventh belong to Kevin Rogenbuck, Mark Nixon, and James Michael, respectively. J.R. Osborne, your Tire Rack Pole Award winner in Formula 1000. Here comes the field in Formula Atlantic, though. They'll take the first rolling start by virtue of the fact that Merle Swan was the fastest qualifier amongst these two classes, but it was fairly close. We'll discuss that throughout the race. Swan will start on the inside. It's Spencer Brockman to the outside. Good alignment from this field coming through turn number 12, headed to the start-finish line, hoping for a clean start to this national championship runoff race. Green flag in the air, and we are racing at Sonoma. The front two sort themselves out quickly. It's a bit wilder further back, but it does seem to be relatively well sorted out, at least through the front four. Dropping a wheel off to the inside and some contact there. That was the 5 of Rivera's. And another car, I think that might have been Rankin, who's having some problems further back. We'll check on that as we go, but so far able to get single file, and we stay green through the first 4 sequences of corners.
Yeah, they're going downhill here into turn 4. That's blind entry on that turn. Gently over the hill to the right. Turn 5 opens up big time now into the carousel as we start. Get ready to form up for our start for Formula 1000.
J.R. Osborne to lead the field to the green on the inside. Randy Cook starting to his outside. Green flag waves and away streaks the Formula 1000 field. This one a bit more tidy. We are single file 4 back and just a double file here. 17 and 44 going to battle. That's Mark Nixon and Rod Rice, and around goes Rod Rice. Oh, what a difficult start to this race it's been for him with a couple of spins here already.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That was the result of a little bit of contact there, and as opposed to on his outlap where it was due to cold tires. Watch on the replay here. He's up over those curbs, and he slides outside. Which car was that inside?
That was the 17 of Mark Nixon.
Yeah, Mark Nixon over the curb and just sliding out into him for that contact. So, in fact, it was not Rice's fault, but having to contend with the result of that situation.
Just not a lot of running room there. Here's the fight in Formula 1000. Randy Cook in the number 9 coming under a great deal of pressure. Gary Hickman right behind. Gary Hickman started in the 4th spot. The leaders in Formula Atlantic have come around to complete the first lap, and it is still Swan leading there by 2.7 seconds, but our eyes are fixed on this fight right here in the Formula 1000 field. Now up front in Formula Atlantic, I think that was Brockman. Swan coming through there at the bottom of your screen. Now into the picture comes Brockman with Ofheim right behind, running in the 3rd position.
Yeah, always a challenge to watch these mixed class races when they're both kind of the same sort of looking cars. You got to look for the difference in those side pods and the wing sizes. That's the big clues there.
Yes, and so we'll keep an eye on that throughout this race. We talked about just how close the two classes were in outright pace, which could make things interesting. The pole speed for Formula Atlantic was a 128.1. Pole for the Formula 1000 was a 128.6, so just a half a second difference there, but there's a ton of interlap between the various classes, especially if you go a bit further back. Off track went Rivera's there for a moment, and that's going to open the door for a few other competitors, perhaps. A big accordion effect behind as Rivera's occupied a great deal of space and forced everyone to jump on the binders.
Yeah, you can tell the tire's not up to temperature yet. If you look at the lap times that they're running, they're still 3 seconds off of what they were doing in qualifying. So there's no doubt that these guys do not quite have the grip yet. And you'll start to also notice, you see we're seeing the shadows here start to show up. We saw this earlier in the week. Those shadows come in there. That's going to keep the temperatures cool, so it's going to make the tires even longer to come up to temperature. So these guys are going to be fighting it all the way around the track as they're fighting for a championship.
You saw it a moment ago. Rankin slipping to the inside of Ryder, taking 5th place away here on the 2nd lap of this race. Now he sets his sights on Rivera's. We've got another car off track. A lot of tire smoke as well. Not sure what precipitated this incident, but that is the number 12 car. That's Rogenbuck, who was running in 11th overall, and that was good enough for 5th in the Formula 1000 race. And it looks like this race might be over prematurely for him.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. Couldn't tell exactly how he ended up out there. Just went straight there. And what these cars, once they go off out there, it's really, really hard to get them back onto track. Most likely some damage under the trays on the cars, potentially even some suspension damage. You'll notice these drivers do not use the curbs intentionally. Sometimes they're forced there through the situational, but don't use them intentionally. They'll get highly upset by it. but you want to be right up against it, but you definitely don't want to be touching those curbs with the low ground clearance cars here.
This is second and third in Formula 1000. We've got Cook leading Hickman. You see it right there on your screen. And just a few moments ago, it appeared that Hickman was right there on the gearbox of Cook, but Cook's been able to pull that advantage a little bit, and now look at this group of four fighting further back in the field. Rivera's running fourth. Rankin has just moved up to the fifth spot. That drops Ryder down to sixth, and we might have Ozard in the picture as well.
Yeah, that number 5 car, Rivera's, is actually a Pro Formula Mazda car. He's kind of the interloper in the group here. Yet another repurposed / survivor from a different series that just happens to fit nicely and is classed into this field and mixes well as he dips 2 wheels off on the exit there of 4.
That's one of the things about this track, especially this time of year, as dusty as it gets. You drop a wheel off and everybody knows it, and it costs him here. Rivera's dropping a spot, slipping up is the 21 of Rankin, able to move around in the carousel. That's a dicey place to be side by side, but those two pull it off.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Every time you dip those 2 wheels off there, it does 2 things. One is it dirties up your own tires, and then secondly, that cloud of dust goes up into the air and it floats back gently down to earth onto the track, which lowers the grip for everybody else the next time through the turn.
How many laps does it take to clear that?
It could be pretty much 1 lap will clear it off. It does tend to accumulate, though, just off the line, and what that does is it hinders any chances for doing a pass in that area because you have to go offline into the collected dirt. In a late race like this, that's been the last one in the day, there's an awful lot of offline dirt out there.
What a move late on the brakes from Dwight Ryder, able to take the pass, but only for a moment. They come out side by side. That's Rivera's in the red car, Ryder in the gray with yellow accenting. And for now, it looks like it belongs to Ryder, who started last in this field and has done a nice job to pick his way up patiently through this field, and now sets his sights up ahead. And we have a yellow on the circuit. It looks like full course yellow.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the dead car that we saw out there earlier is in a unsafe position. And we'll be looking to see get the emergency vehicles out there somehow in order to get it off there.
That message might not have been conveyed to everybody here, as we saw Rivera's take a look to the inside that time just a few moments ago. Hopefully the corner workers will get that message out. It looks like maybe even a hand signal there from the car ahead. And interesting, we've got the safety car, a safety truck, I should say, out on the track.
Yeah, it looks like we got oil laid down there from the car that went off track. So he went off track because he had blown up. So basically just drove off track, which is a great thing to try to keep the fluid spill to a minimum. So it looks like we're just going to have the 1 corner to clean up, but we do have to get that cleaned up because there's no way we can race through there at speed. And anytime you have those waving yellows, there is no passing in that situation. So we're going to be fixing our field at this moment.
Gives us an opportunity to say thank you to the volunteer corner workers who have been here all week long. It's a very long week at the Runoffs, and they contribute a great deal of time and effort, and gotta think they're probably a bit sore from waving those flags around all throughout the week, but couldn't do it without them really looking after these drivers and making sure that this event goes as smoothly as possible. And it really does run like clockwork, which is saying something when you've got close to 500 cars that you're trying to make sure make it to the grid and go out when they're supposed to. There's a lot that goes into this from a logistics perspective.
There sure is, and those corner workers are especially important. The drivers call them their angels because particularly at a track like this where so many blind turns, you come over a turn, there could be a car spun out in front of you, there could be fluid on the track, and I got to tell you, even from personal experience, there's nothing like having fluid on a track to make your day really, really exciting. No grip in a braking situation is not what you want to deal with. Corner workers will get that surface flag out, the yellow with red striped flag. That lets you know that's their way of communicating with you and say, hey, watch it, you got an issue here, or perhaps a waving yellow, as we just saw there. It's the only way that you can do this in any sort of safe way at all. So the communication is critical, and having those volunteers out there. The other thing that's great about being one of those volunteers is you are right in the middle of the action, and you actually can very much help the way that the race progresses. Things like passing flags, stuff like that, is super important to making the races progress as efficiently as possible.
You could see on that last shot the progress that the safety crew has made in terms of cleaning up the oil that came down when the car in question had an issue.
Yeah, this is a circuit that's used for a lot of professional road races, and so they have great safety equipment out there in order for cleaning up the surface. There's a very purpose-built machine that they use that puts down the oil dry and immediately scoops it back up, so they don't have to they just make one pass over it, and it's very, very effective. That said, the first time the drivers drive across that oil dry will be very exciting for the guy who's not the lead car. There's nothing like getting a mouthful, ears full, everything full of that oil dry. And we do have a car going into the pits here.
To try and catch a number as they come through. Looks like that was Brockman, the number 34, who was running second on the track at the time. We'll have Tom try and check out what's going on here, but this is not a good sign for the car running in position to pick up the silver medal.
No doubt. It's never a good thing in a sprint race to ever come into the pits. Usually that means your race is done for whatever reason, but hopefully it's just a simple issue because under this full course yellow, if he can get whatever it is fixed, he can catch back up to the field so long as he doesn't pass anybody. And he'll be able to not lose too much ground, but they're probably only going to have a minute or two to rectify whatever the issue is. They're looking behind the car under the gearbox there in the back, not looking good as they slowly are pushing it. I believe the engine cover, yeah, the engine cover now coming off the back of the car, never a good sign as they dip down inside.
That is a Swift chassis for Spencer Brockman, who hails from Westport, Connecticut. He was the pick by Sports Car Magazine coming into this weekend and had a lot of eyes on him to try and take this Formula Atlantic Championship. Has 2 previous appearances in the runoffs the last 2 years, 2016 and 2017 at Mid-Ohio and Indianapolis, and finished 3rd in both. So good choice for a potential podium finisher, but problems unfolding before our eyes on pit lane and waylaying Spencer Brockman.
Yeah, it's unfortunate as he was on the front row of our grid, only a 1/10 of a second off of Merle Swan. Definitely had a really great shot at the whole thing here, and unfortunately some sort of issue there looks to be with the motor as that engine cover coming off.
We continue behind the Trans Am pace car here with 14 laps to go in our Formula Atlantic and Formula 1000 split championship runoffs event at Sonoma Raceway, and there you see Brockman headed back to the paddock area. That's a real shame and sorry to see that. One thing that this caution period does do, as we get a report that it was a transmission issue for that team, not a huge surprise when they went to work there at the rear end of that machine. But one thing that this safety car period does do is it combines the 2 classes here for the restart. Remember, they started separately behind 2 different pace cars, and you have to believe the class that is most affected by this is going to be Formula 1000. The pace setters in that class are faster than the tail-end drivers in Formula Atlantic, and they're going to have to deal with that traffic in addition to one another now.
That's a great point. It's going to be very, very interesting on this restart to see how that they're able to deal with that traffic. It'll actually make for great viewing, though, so I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah, that makes 2 of us here. Looks like the lights are off on the pace car, so Merle Swan will take control of this field. Coming through in that U.S. Army livery number 66 machine from Brownsburg, Indiana, a 2-time national champion in 2006 and 2009, and gets a great jump coming to the green flag. A huge gap of 10 car lengths as they restart this race. Slotting in second now is Ofheim, with Rankin promoted to 3rd with the problems to Brockman. Very clean restart here, and we're going to have to see how these cars pick their way through traffic. Potentially a problem there for the number 37. That is Michael, who's dropping off the pace. We'll try and follow up on that, but for now, the battle rages on throughout this field.
It does indeed. As they're climbing the hill there up to turn 2, you'll notice that sun's starting to be a problem there, and folks dropping wheels, adding a little bit of sand and dust to the mix, which will make it even harder to see what's going on as you crest it.
Good fight right here. That's the number 21 car of Rankin. He's got Ryder right in his tire tracks, trying to make up some ground through the carousel, taking a different line to get some downforce to that front wing, and now in a position to try an outside maneuver into turn 7, and there's the front of your Formula 1000 grid.
Yeah, they're definitely catching up. I expect to see the...
Here's a move for the lead in Formula 1000, a bit wide on exit, and it looks like the pass was made. Sorry, that was not for the lead. That was a little bit further back. My apologies. But a nice move nonetheless. And we do have a problem here. Somebody is off the pace. 13 laps to go and a problem deeper in the field. We'll see what is going on here as the car comes around. We think that could be Osborne, who was the pole sitter in Formula 1000. That is indeed Osborne off the pace, crawling to a halt, and that is a bad sign. Actually, maybe still continuing and hopefully can make his way back to pit lane. But devastating news for J.R. Osborne from Colorado, who started on pole with a great qualifying effort to take the top spot in Formula 1000.
Yeah, an amazing amount of attrition in this in this race so far. It's just it's really, I mean, you would expect it perhaps out of some of the 20-year-old cars, but not so much out of the Formula 1000s.
That promotes Cook to the lead of Formula 1000. Randy Cook from Palo Alto, California, who qualified second, running now in the top spot, trying to bring home a national title. On your screen is the number 32 car. That's Ozard out of the Formula Atlantic class. And he's got some of the Formula 1000 cars right behind him. Cook, the leader of that class, right there in your shot.
Yeah, the other thing this does is it allowed everybody's tires to cool off. So it's going to take them a couple of laps to get them all back up into temperature range. And even as that's happening, the shadows are now starting to creep over the track, which is going to bring this track temperature down very, very quickly. We've seen that every single day that we've been racing here. Late in the day, the temps come down, and it drastically alters the way the tires grip onto the surface.
Well, you spoke earlier in the broadcast about the differences between these two classes of cars. Here's a move to the inside. That's Ozard in the 32, able to get around Riveras in the 5, at least for the moment. They stay side by side, though. Riveras able to keep it alongside until the left-hander at turn 12, where he's forced to duck back into line. And again, right there, just watching this unfold in front of him is the class leader in Formula 1000. What's got to be going through his mind?
Yeah, it's got to be a really interesting situation there. I mean, he's got to figure out, where am I faster than these guys and where are they faster than me? Typically, the Atlantic cars have more downforce due to the ground effect tunnels, and he's going to accelerate a little bit faster than they are. So he's got to look for those places where he can find a little bit of a straightaway. Oh,
that's
outside
not what
move.
You want to see is the race leader 3 wide, and 2 of the cars aren't even in your class, and that has closed up the race for the lead in Formula 1000. Let's see what happens here. Headed into the carousel, a nifty move down the inside, opportunistic. That was Hickman, Gary Hickman from Santee, California, able to make that pass and now slides into the top spot. We'll see, can Cook fight back and take that position back?
Yeah, this is really great stuff. As I said earlier, it was going to be, I was looking at my chops to see how these guys were going to intermix. And so, particularly because the cars have different strengths and weaknesses, we are seeing that play out in front of us right now as they scream down through those falling S's, an iconic part of this Sonoma circuit.
There's the leader again in Formula 1000 being troubled a little bit by traffic here. That's the number 5 again of Paul Riveras just in front. Let's see, can the leader Hickman make the pass? Yes, he does, clearing the lap traffic, or the out-of-class traffic, I should say, and should be free and clear coming around 12. The question now comes to mind is what happened to Cook, who was leading, has dropped back significantly. That's Nixon coming through the shot here now, so we're going to have to see. And into the pit lane comes Cook, the erstwhile leader in this class. I wonder if there might have been some contact in that 3-wide moment back in turn number 4.
I cannot remember seeing an Atlantic or F1000 race with this many folks coming into the pits or pulling off the track. This is really, really interesting. Unfortunately, looking like his day, they're looking at that left front tire. So I'm guessing some contact there as we return to the action.
That's got to be heartbreaking for Randy Cook, a local who has 4 previous runoffs appearances, just 1 in this class, in which he finished 11th, and that was at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca back in 2014.
All right, let's give you a quick rundown here, as it's really, really hard to keep up with this. So Swan, your leader in Atlantic, Opheim right behind him, Rankin 3rd, and Ryder 4th. First in Formula 1000 is Rice, followed by the Formula Atlantic car of Ozard, and then second in Formula 1000 is Hickman. Third in 1000 is Nixon, and fourth in 1000 is Cook. So that is the running order at the most.
Got a replay coming your way here of the incident that Randy Cook might have ultimately taken him out of this race. Let's see. Hard to tell from that shot, but clearly that car was not right, the way that it dropped off the pace, and it did so right after that instance. So
yeah, it looked like there might have been some contact on the left front tire with the right front tire. The left front tire with the right rear tire of the car that was making the pass.
At any rate, it's a real shame, and one of the byproducts of multi-class racing, which you don't see a whole lot of at the runoffs. And had this race stayed green from start to finish, I don't think we would have seen a whole lot of moments like that, because the two classes are relatively close in terms of time. But the downside to that is when they were bunched up, because the classes were so close in time, you have situations where drivers are fighting for position in their class. They've got a leader in another class behind them, and it left Cook in a tough spot.
Yeah, as I said earlier, the cars make speed, even though the lap times are fairly similar. They make speed in different ways, and so you're trying to have your own race. Each of you is trying to have your own race, but at the same time, you got a guy who's kind of accordioning both in front and behind you, and it's a challenge to make that work without either contact or going off.
It's the number 21 of Rankin that you see front and center in the picture there. And trailing right behind is the 31 car. 31 is Oppheim, who had been running in second. So that appears to be a change of position since the last time these two cars came around to take the start-finish line and trigger the timing line there. Let's see what timing and scoring says. And indeed, Rankin has jumped up to second, dropping Oppheim back to the third spot. This is the fight for the final two steps on the podium in this class. Meanwhile, Swan is all by his lonesome, 15 seconds up the road.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, just managing his pace. He's still running, about 2 seconds. Oh, we got a car off here.
Ozard now has pulled off, and we're getting word that that engine may have expired in that race car. You can see some telltale smoke coming out of the back of that machine, and the frustration mounts there. Here's a side-by-side battle, right back to our fight at the front of the field, second and third with Rankin and Oppheim, and they're going to stay side-by-side on the exit to the carousel.
Did you notice how Rankin came wide around that turn? And that works in the carousel when you have those ground effects. It's a different kind of aerodynamics. You keep the speed up, and it works taking that wider line. It doesn't work in the non-aero classes, but definitely in the aero classes does it work.
Looks like the running order remains the same after all of that, but it was an interesting moment. Rankin ahead of Oppheim, but here comes Oppheim again, not giving up, in another yellow flag. That will stymie the run from Oppheim. That has to be heartbreaking for him. It looked like he was in position to make a dive down the inside in 11, but it's not going to happen now because the safety car is out and we've got a spin. That's Rice going around.
That is the third time he spun out here today.
That was the leader in the class, though, prior to that spin. And so you don't see positions change hands often under a double yellow, but when you have a spin like that, that's what's going to happen. So here we go. We'll see exactly what the cause of this yellow is. I suspect it might have to do with fluid. We saw the number 32 car give up the ghost a little bit ago, and we saw that earlier in the race as well, bring out the safety car.
Yeah, and just there past just prior to the pit out, we saw one of the emergency vehicles that is used to put down that oil dry with his hand waving out the window. So I suspect that he's putting down some oil dry right there.
So 7 laps to go. I'm thinking back to our first yellow for fluid on the track. That took, what, 3 or 4 laps to try and sort through?
Yeah, hopefully this one will be a shorter area. It's difficult to tell as we only saw when he came to rest to see how far, but at least it looks like he pulled off as quickly as he could.
And importantly, offline as well. So there is the safety car trying to pick up this field, and we're maybe in line for another one of those hairy restarts here with these two classes intermingling It led to some fireworks the first time around.
It sure did, and this time now, being this close to the end of the race, you know these guys are going to be going for it, because if they can get in front of somebody at this point, you might be able to get your elbows out and keep that guy behind you, even if he has been faster than you in general. All you got to do is get that one pass done, get your elbows out, and you get yourself up onto the podium. The other thing we're noticing, see how the shadows are there now? Half of this track is now in shadow, and probably by the time we're done, the whole thing is going to be in shadow. Also check as he comes up the hill here, watch how the sun is now going to be in his eyes as he goes all the way to the top of the hill. That's going to be a challenge. On that restart, here it is, the sun coming through on that picture, being able to see up into that blind turn 2 at the top of the hill, going to be quite the challenge.
You could see the trail of Speedy Drive there, right at the exit of the pit lane, it appeared. So it didn't seem to extend onto the racing surface very far. That is the good news, and hopefully this will be a brief safety car intervention. The one guy who's got to be thinking, what do I got to do to have some green flag running, was your race leader, Swan, who had built up a lead of 15 seconds after that last restart, and all of a sudden he's going to have to do it all over again with Rankin right behind him in the number 21 car.
Yeah, you never want to see a yellow flag out there when you are the leader with that kind of a margin. Although I'm fairly confident he'll be able to do it again. That said, if he's used up too much of his tires in building that lead, that's always the danger of pushing the car too hard too early, is if you do get a full course yellow, the field bunches up and those guys maybe were being a little more conservative. That then gives them an advantage on a restart.
Swan does have the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:29.9. That compares to the next closest, which is a 1:31.3, I believe, back in the 6th spot. Actually, one of the Formula 1000 competitors, Rice, put up a really fast time at one point. And Osborne, actually, and Brockman, for that matter, one of the Atlantic competitors earlier, had a 1:31 flat, effectively. But still, Swan with the fastest so far. Let's check in with Tom downstairs.
Yeah, hey guys, I was able to check with both the 83 of J.R. Osborne and the 9 of Randy Cook. They were your front row, remember, in Formula B. Osborne, definitely some head scratching. They think maybe a charging problem, but they weren't sure. The attitude, though, definitely dejected. They were really looking forward to that win. Randy Cook, a little more, it's racing, but they definitely did have some contact. A bent steering arm potentially was the issue. They decided to just pull that car off. The Osborne car pulled away. I can tell you from right now, I'm standing in the shade, and it is dropping fast. The temperatures, last thing I was going to point out, though, I've already forgotten, so I'll throw it back to you guys.
If you think of it again, let us know. We'd love to check in with you. Thanks so much for all the reporting down there and try and stay warm in the shade. Tom O'Gorman working the pit lane for us. Here's some good news. Lights off on the safety car.
Absolutely.
So Trans Am pace car, the official pace car of these runoffs, set to pull off. Your leader is Swan in Formula Atlantic, Rankin right behind in the number 21 car.
One thing we're noticing as they form up for the restart, smoke out of Swan's car on the lead there, perhaps as he was doing the downshifts. Hopefully nothing to worry about.
We'll keep an eye on that. There is the green flag. We're back underway. Neat and tidy early on. A couple of cars fanning out further back in the field, and it looks like that is your leader in Formula 1000. That's the number 76 car of Hickman, who does hold that narrow advantage over Rice, who, remember, was leading until the spin in turn 11 just a little bit ago. So he's eager to try and make that position back up if at all possible. And this is really going to be hairy stuff, because we have the two classes mixed up once again, with the leader in Formula 1000 at the back of the Formula Atlantic field.
Rice looking really racy here. He seems to be making lunges at pretty much every single braking opportunity. Perhaps his car braking a little bit better than Hickman's, but Hickman's pulling off the turns a little bit better as they climb the hill up into turn 7.
It's actually the 4th place runner in Formula Atlantic that runs in front of Hickman, so that shows you just how close these two classes are. Really, you can mix them up pretty darn well. The problem is they just make their speed in different areas, and we've seen that cause problems earlier in this race. This is a good look at the number 21 of Rankin. Oppheim behind in the number 31, fighting for 2nd and 3rd. Swan looks like he's got a bit of an advantage here, but this is the fight for 2nd. A peek to the inside here in the number 31 machine. Can Oppheim make the move? He gets up to the right rear tire of Rankin, but has to fall back in line. Remember, he was setting up for a move right before that caution came out a few moments ago.
Yeah, finally getting to play his hand a little bit as they climb the hill. Look at that sun coming in there.
And that's the fight for the lead in Formula 1000. Sorry to jump on you there, but that got really interesting really fast.
Yeah, it sure did. And you watch how he took that inside line. He got a big puff of that speedy dry going up the hill just as he was trying to get his visual on the apex there. Not what you want to be looking at.
Hope his visor was all the way down. That stuff does not taste very good. 4 laps to go in this race, and good fight at the front of the Formula 1000 field. Good battle right here for second in Formula Atlantic. Rankin has it, Opheim wants it. 2 very different lines through the carousel, and we'll see how that shakes out as we head to turn 7, one of the good passing zones on this circuit.
Yeah, interestingly, in Formula Atlantic, all the drivers now with personal bests in that first sector, and Swan with the best time overall there.
We have a switch in the lead in Formula 1000. Rice has made his way past Hickman and up into the top spot of that class. So that one's changed hands a fair few times. And we're hearing a report that perhaps there could be mechanical issues for Hickman, who was leading in this class a little while ago. If Rice were to go on to win this thing, he's had a very exciting trip to the top step of the podium, which we can detail more later. Here is the fight for second, and it looks like it will change hands with Opheim getting around Rankin and holding down the second spot. The silver medal now 3 laps away.
Yeah, he tried that move on the previous lap, realized that it was not going to work there, but you got to try it a couple of times, and sometimes you do it just a little bit differently, and he did that time. He was a little bit tighter in as Rankin went a little bit wider, and it worked out in his favor this time.
Swan leads this race by 6.6 seconds. Opheim and Rankin have been dueling over this second position for really as far back as I can remember in this race. It seems like they've been together, but now that we've seen the pass, Opheim's been able to pull away and put a nice gap between himself and his closest challenger, Rankin. Rice has a nice hold over the lead in Formula 1000. Hickman has dropped back a second or so behind, running in second but 6th overall. And looking down, 3rd place as it runs in Formula 1000 belongs to Nixon, 14 seconds off of the overall leader in Swan. And perhaps those rumors of an issue for the number 76 car of Hickman were a bit premature because he's back on the pace.
Yeah, he's looking really, really good here. Very racy. Definitely on the charge.
These two have been at it too for a good portion of this race, and once again, they're right at the back of the Formula Atlantic field, and that could play a role in how this plays out. The 44 car, that is Rice. He is the class leader. The 76 right in his tire tracks. Hickman trying to plot his way back by and back into the lead.
This will be interesting watching the climb up the hill here as those 1000 cars a little bit faster to accelerate. They didn't carry quite the speed through the turn.
That is a good look at the challenge that the sun presents in this portion of the racetrack.
Yeah, no doubt. Watching them crest the hill up here, down through 3, up into 3A, through the compression, cresting up over the hill. Now we're going to come back down the hill into 4, blind braking zone here. A lot of folks having trouble going off left, as in fact there goes somebody dropping 2 right there. Hard to see, hard to judge, and all that sand stays out there on the track for your next lap.
That's Ryder, who runs 4th in Formula Atlantic, just waiting to see if some mishap were to befall any of his fellow class competitors running ahead of him. He'd love to get on that final step of the podium if at all possible. This, though, is a class lead that hangs in the balance between these two. A lap and a half to go as they come through turn 7 for the penultimate time. The 44 is Rice, Hickman right behind. They've been close a couple of times through this area. We'll see who gets the run through the S's.
Yeah, what a great battle here for a championship medal for the gold. This is the section where those cars really excel, down through it with all that aero on the car. For most classes, this turn 10, very, very tricky, but for these guys, it's almost flat out through there. What a thrill that's got to be.
And will out-of-class traffic play a role in this? Coming around to take the white flag, Merle Swan, your overall leader, comes through and does that just a few moments ago. I think that's Opheim right there running in second, just a little ways back. waiting for timing to confirm. Yeah, 5 seconds in arrears is Opheim, 5 further seconds back to Rankin, then it's Ryder, and then the first of the Formula 1000 competitors. 1 lap to go for them with the national championship hanging in the balance. Here they come up the hill, again with traffic right in front of them. Focusing both forward and to the rear is Rice, trying to hold that spot. Again, a ton of dust flung up right in his face through this section of the track. That's the second time in a row that's happened. And in front of these 2 leaders in their class, a battle is breaking out ahead of them in the other class, and that's for third. That's a podium fight just ahead.
Yeah, each of these pairs of cars has their own battle going on, but at the same time, they may just intermingle here as we get down towards the end there. But this is the very last lap of the runoffs. You got to be going for it.
Field coming a bit closer together there through the heavy braking in turn 7. Now up through these S's. Advantage goes to Rice for the moment. Hickman tried to hang in right behind up front. Again, Merle Swan leading the way in Formula Atlantic. We'll show you his cross across the start-finish line and under the checkered flags as soon as he gets there, but all eyes on that battle. Here is your overall leader, Merle Swan, with the fist pumping across the line. He is your national champion in Formula Atlantic. Here's the battle for Formula 1000 class honors. Rice able to hold off the advances of Hickman. Coming to the line, he will win the Formula 1000 national championship at Sonoma Raceway, able to keep Hickman behind by 0.4 of a second. What a close battle, what a clean battle we saw after that final restart.
Wow, what a barn burner that was. Very hard to follow it, but those guys knew exactly where they needed to go and exactly what they needed to do. So we end up with Swan, followed by Hopheim for the silver in the Atlantic, and then Rankin for the bronze, and then back to Formula 1000. Rice your winner, Hickman in second, and then Michael in the third and final podium spot.
Well, hats off to these competitors for putting on a show. Taking a look at the fastest lap of the race, it was a 1:29.924 for your race winner, Merle Swan, and that's not quite going to be good enough to reset the track record, which has been held by Rennie Clayton since 2003. So that one will stand, just a 1/10 of a second difference in that comparison there, but I don't think that's going to matter for your race winner, Merle Swan. He is thrilled because he's going to have a gold medal hung around his neck here in just a few moments and get the privilege of speaking with our Tom O'Gorman.
That's exactly right. These guys work all year for this. You don't just sign up for this event. You have to go to races. You have to do well. You have to qualify. This is the culmination of a season, and oftentimes an off season and several seasons prior that gets you to this point. A lot of hard work. He's going to be elated, I have to be sure.
He hails from Brownsburg, Indiana, just a little bit west of the racing capital of the world, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which played host to these SCCA runoffs 1 year ago. The Hoosier comes out west and represents his home state very well. Merle Swan coming through pit lane, and we'll make that left-hand turn here and speak with Tom O'Gorman here shortly. The battle for second was a fierce one, with Opheim able to hold off Rankin there in the final stages of this race. It ultimately was a 0.4 of a, or make it a 4-second difference between the two of them, but that does not tell the full story. And again, in Formula 1000, we saw Rice and Hickman mount an impressive duel for the majority of that race as well, with Rice coming out on top, and we'll hear from him as well here in a few moments. You see him pulling up alongside Merle Swan, who works to get that helmet unfastened, and once he does, Tom will be right there to have a word with him. Let's go ahead and go downstairs. Tom is standing by.
Yeah, Merle Swan, it was a drama-filled race, but not for you. You just cruised it home to a gold medal.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it was a very physical, very intense track. I'm really glad that I got to do this track. I mean, it's one of the best tracks I've ever raced at. I mean, Hasselgren, great engine, Hoosier tire. They constantly produce a better and better product. Couldn't be happier. Big thanks to Bill Gillespie letting me represent this car, U.S. Army, and I mean, hi to my family back home.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. Gold medal for Merle Swan in Formula Atlantic.
A great race and a good Scott Pruitt impression there, too, with a salute to the family at home. These are your results in Formula Atlantic. Merle Swan by 7.6 seconds over Anthony Oppheim. Graham Rankin will complete the podium in third, with Dwight Ryder, Paul Riveras, Ed Ozard, and Spencer Brockman completing the final finishing order, first through seventh in Formula Atlantic. We'll hear from the rest of the podium there in just a moment, but let's go down to Tom right now.
Yeah, we got Rod Rice, national champion in Formula B. Now, this isn't in the stats book, but I think you might have just got most pirouettes on the way to a national champion. That was exciting.
I think I did. I was trying to warm up the tires on the opening lap, spun, and then started from the back of the pack and went into corner 2 and got T-boned and spun there. And then when the double yellows came out, I was right next to one car, spun again. So it's like dirt track, and this is pretty exciting, though. First time winner.
Well, it was a lot of fun to watch. Who do you need to thank to be here?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The tires were off, and Gary Hickman and I were going back and forth. It was incredible.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your national championship.
Post-race, a penalty was assigned to the 44 car for a pass under yellow, moving Gary Hickman into the national championship position with James Michael in second and Mark Nixon in third.
And let's go back down to Tom, who has some of our podium finishers.
Yeah, so we're starting with Tony Oppheim. He's your second place finisher in Formula Atlantic. You guys had a super drama-filled race. Tell us about your perspective from it.
Oh man, it was slick out there. I don't know what it is, but all the grip that was out there disappeared. And I just cut, and they were telling me on the radio, Graham's catching me. And then he stuck it back there, and he's got legs and he's got brakes. And it's like, okay, nope, this isn't worth it. I'm going to stick with him. And it's like, okay, yellow, I got it. And damn, he took off again. But I set him up. He's got legs, and I just couldn't do anything. But I'm quicker through 10. So I backed up. I actually backed off, gave him a little bit of room, and then I just kept my foot in it all the way down there. And then I just took you in as deep as I could. I actually locked him up a little bit. So anyway, it was a blast.
Awesome. And then Graham Rankin, third place from sixth on the grid. How about that?
Yeah, great start today. Yeah, we got, I think we got a little bit lucky with some other folks, struggling a little bit. But, all in all, great day. And the car ran great. The thing was completely hooked up today. And running with this guy's a ton of fun. And that yellow was definitely made it interesting. So he got me at the end there. But it's a wonderful day. Great day. Awesome fun.
Well, congratulations to you guys. I was just going to say, glad it was fun to watch because it didn't look like any fun to drive, but you already beat me to it. They looked like a blast. Congrats, guys.
Absolutely.
You could see the mutual respect among them, and that's what club racing is all about, as you see Merle Swan out on his victory tour here at Sonoma Raceway. Two guys that just went at it for 20 laps, and they're laughing about it at the end.
That's right. As the saying goes, the Fun with Cars slogan is what SCCA is all about. What a great thing. I love seeing all that excitement and that fun from those guys in victory lane.
Well, we've got our Formula 1000 podium finishers to check in with as well, and I believe Tom is standing by with just those characters.
Yep, Gary Hickman here. You guys had a heck of a battle there at the end.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was leading there for a little bit and started having shifting problems coming out of turn 6, and that allowed Rod to catch up to me and get around me. And so I just put my head down and pinned it on his rear, and unfortunately it's 1 lap short. But it was fun.
Oh, that's awesome. 1 lap short, but still a silver medal there. And then we're going to step over here to James Michael. James is right here. James, right?
Yes.
Welcome. Here we go. So third place in Formula B. James, you started 7th in class, and you're standing here with a bronze medal.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I wasn't expecting this. I just tried to drive a clean race. I was hoping I'd go a little faster, but I kept it clean. I didn't make any mistakes, and I just kept churning along, and here I am. So it's pretty exciting. It's like, wow, that's fantastic. I wasn't expecting this at all. So I feel great, man. I'm top of the world. Thank you.
Well, congratulations on that. Clean was the key, and he finished third.
James Michael started 7th and finished 3rd. That's a huge part of this story, too. Good job to claw his way up through the field for him, and what an eventful race. It all started here on the start. Merle Swan able to take that lead and really outside of a couple restarts, he ran this race unchallenged.
Yeah, he sure did. It was a picture-perfect day for him. A little contact later on in the field. That's what caused those first yellows and stuff, but great racing throughout the pack throughout this race for both classes.
Yep, here is some of the contact that definitely had an outcome in the race. A few moments ago, you saw Rice go around at number 44. He's about to make the pass, or try to make the pass right here for the lead. He was a human highlight reel throughout the course of this event. A couple spins, but it didn't stop him from reaching victory lane. A less eventful for Merle Swan, but he's also a national champion in Formula Atlantic, and here was the battle in Formula 1000. Crossing the line first, Rod Rice in the number 44 machine, 5th overall, and our national champion in his class. Well, what a blast that race was, and you could say that for the entire event here. The 2018 SCCA National Championship Runoffs did not disappoint. Your final thoughts, Andy, as you think back on what we saw here throughout the week and specifically in this race?
What a great week, and as I mentioned earlier, I mean, it's all about fun with cars. These guys all super excited as they come off the race, jumping out of their cars, giving each other hugs and high fives. What a great week. What a great facility here at Sonoma. Cannot wait to get back over to VIR for this Runoffs thing again next year, and good luck in all the drivers in the off-season.
The countdown is already on to VIR, another fantastic circuit. The SCCA just going from strength to strength when you look at the various tracks that they go to for their crown jewel event, and I think everyone is already looking forward to Virginia International Raceway next year. Thanks so much to our entire crew for their help throughout this broadcast. For Tom O'Gorman down in pit lane, Andy Hollis alongside, this has been Ryan Marine saying so long from Sonoma Raceway.